We all know big is bigger than small. And of course, massive is bigger than big. And mega is even bigger than massive and way bigger than big. Well, this isn't big, and it's not massive, and it's not just mega. This is the Mega Massive Oh My Goodness Merry Mortgage Giveaway from Cable Bahamas. Our grand prize winner will get their mortgage and utilities paid for a full year. Another winner will get their utility payments, and another winner will get all their cable services for an entire year. That's up to $40,000 in prizes in the Mega Massive Oh My Goodness Merry Mortgage Giveaway. If you want to win, just sign up for Rare Voice Bahamaland, the unlimited nationwide home phone service that's packed with features for one low price of just $14.99 a month. This is the time to upgrade your home phone service to Rare Voice Bahamaland, and we'll pay your mortgage and utility payments up to $25,000 for a full year. Rare Voice Bahamaland, the Bahamas' most reliable home phone service with nationwide coverage and a chance to win in the Mega Massive Oh My Goodness Merry Mortgage Giveaway.
The VAT debate continues to heat up.
We cannot reset the national fiscal situation without pain.
Tonight we hear from several people on the upcoming tax. The National Security Minister remains tight-lipped on the status of police 12-hour shifts. The Prime Minister has an audience with the Pope, plus high school students weigh in on the country's crime situation. I'm Nikia DeVoe, and this is NB12. Thanks for joining us here at Cable 12 Studios. Here are the stories coming out of the NB12 newsroom this Monday evening. The debate on value-added tax continues to build steam ahead of the government tabling proposed VAT legislation in Parliament. Days after opposition leader Dr. Hubert Minnis came out strong against VAT, he is also continuing to get strong reaction to his statements. In this report, leading businessman Franklin Wilson says Minnis is placing his credibility on the line in the direction he has chosen to take on this issue. Candia Dames reports.
Wilson says the position the opposition leader has taken in this VAT debate is in fact tragic. He also says that the country's response to its debt crisis should be threefold: retarding the growth in government expenditure, improving the economy, and increasing revenue. Minnis has called VAT regressive, but failed to point out that the F&M administration was also planning on introducing the tax. He has called on the Christie administration to explain how the country got in a position where there is now an urgent move toward VAT. But as his critics note, he failed to highlight the high levels of deficit spending and debt that accumulated under the administration of which he was a part.
The fact of the matter is, the national debt climbed at a rate that was without precedent in the 5 years of the last F&M administration. I mean, it was incredible.
At the end of June 2007, government debt stood at $2.4 billion. When the Free National Movement left office, it was around $4 billion. As bad as those numbers are, Wilson says they don't tell the whole story.
Number one, they mask the fact that the growth in the national debt was aided by non-recurring and very substantial transactions on which the government earned stamp duty fees. I point particularly to the sale and resale of Borco and the transaction of the multi-billion-dollar closure of the purchase and everything associated with Bahama. Those three transactions alone, without those, the national debt would have climbed appreciably more.
Wilson also says the public has yet to understand the true costs of the New Providence Road Improvement Project, as the government has yet to pay landowners many millions of dollars for land acquired.
The public needs to please do not see this thing in no partisan thing. Do not begin this debate about VAT or no VAT. Please accept that it is terribly important that the national financial situation of the government be reset. And the basic reason for that is a degree of recklessness that this country went on under the last Ingram administration. That's the premise. That's not a partisan statement, that's just a fact. Now, if we could get beyond that, and if the opposition, today's opposition, were to stop trying to spin things, just acknowledge that, yes, this is where we are. Let us see to what extent we can, together as Bahamians, look for a solution which is less painful than any other possible option. But the Bahamian public needs to come to grips. We cannot reset the national fiscal situation without pain. Without pain. There has to be pain.
Wilson says the issue now for the government and the opposition should be determining how to minimize that pain and share it with a degree of equity and fairness. But he says, given the state of public finances, there is no way the pain could be completely avoided. And one other thing, Wilson says unions in this country should, quote, get real. He says there is no more money and they really should not be clamoring for what is not there. Reporting for NB12, I'm Candia Dames.
Well, Dr. Minnis is aiming to set the record straight on his party's position on VAT. The opposition leader insists the F&M has not flip-flopped on the issue, explaining that his party is actually criticizing the way the government is handling the process.
The position has never changed. Whatever the F&M does, the F&M has always been transparent. Our process would have been correct. Just like the referendum, the process was wrong. That's the problem the F&M had there. With this, the process is wrong. We would ensure, one, a proper analysis so we know which tax is correct for our country, because one size don't fit all. Two, we would ensure that the public understands what we're doing. They would have had all the relevant information.
The Progressive Liberal Party hit out at Minnis after he criticized the government's plan to introduce VAT next July. The F&M planned to give VAT a, quote, early consideration if re-elected. Former State Minister for Finance Javargo Lang said earlier this year that the former Ingram administration had planned to implement VAT within 2 to 3 years if the F&M was re-elected in 2012. Minnis said he believes the government is moving too fast.
And we want to do it in 6 months? Child, please. Christy, you have to be joking. He could not possibly be serious. 2 to 3 years to do it properly. And he want to rush it?
F&M MPs have begun polling residents to gauge the public's feelings on the new tax. Minnis released results of a poll of his constituency where at last count 200 Killarney constituents responded to an online poll. According to Minnis, when asked if the government should introduce VAT, 77.2% said no. 14.6% said yes, and 8.4% said they don't know. When asked what form of new taxation the country should implement, 13.5% said none, and 86.5% said other tax models, including a sales tax, income tax, or payroll tax. Minnis also asked his constituents if they have sufficient information on VAT to make an informed decision. He said 72% of the 200 who answered said they do not, and 28.6% said they do.
But what is most important here is that 86.5% said there should be some form of taxation. That is most significant. People want an improved process. They want to be informed. They want to be involved. They want to know that when they're making that decision today, they're making that decision today not for themselves, but they're making a decision that would be in the best interest of the future generation, your kids, your grandkids, etc.
Minnis says while the poll included only 200 people, he believes the results reflect the views of the majority of Bahamians. Other F&M MPs are expecting to release results of polls in their constituencies in the coming days. However, the polls are not scientific. Well, days after a prominent business owner urged Bahamians to reject VAT, a group of business owners is calling on government to reconsider implementing the new tax regime. Christina McNeil has that story in this report.
A group of business owners say the introduction of value-added tax may be scaring Bahamians out of business. And while they note that it may address some of government's revenue needs, they say it may also serve to hurt some Bahamians who are already struggling.
To put it in one word, it's very scary because if you're going to threaten small businesses to the extent that they would end up in jail, their assets confiscated, their business closed down, then what you are actually doing is you are scaring people out of business.
Retail Grocers Association President Philip Benaby asking government to rethink VAT before introducing the new tax regime in July 2014. He joins the voice of SuperValue owner Rupert Roberts, who is urging Bahamians to petition their members of parliament to reject VAT. Roberts telling our news team that if government wants to collect more revenue, there are other ways to do it other than introducing VAT. Roberts says it seems government already has problems collecting the revenue it is owed and now wants to turn merchants into tax collectors.
The government is thirsty for revenue and they are desperate for revenue. And I don't want to say, in reference to the government, that desperate people do desperate things. So the government need to rethink that, and they need to pull back.
I understand that they collect a very small portion of the revenue now, far less than 50% of the revenue. If they collected 75–80% of the revenue, I don't think this VAT question would arise. This is the wrong way to collect taxes. There are many other ways that that this could be resolved, and I think the government should have sat down with the private sector and discussed all of this, not just throw something at the public that the consumer don't want anything to do with it.
The business owners we spoke to say they agree that government revenue collection must be improved, but VAT may not be the way to go about it. President of the Carmichael Business League, Ethric Bowe, says VAT cannot be examined in a vacuum. Rather, one must look at the possible ripple effects it may have on all levels of society.
Common sense tells us that we're trying to get more money into government. That money is coming from somewhere. That somewhere is us. And basically, if you have less of your money, at the end of the day, that means you're poorer. So VAT will make most of the people in the Bahamas poorer.
Bowe says in considering VAT, government ought to introduce a Freedom of Information Act to improve transparency and ensure that every dollar government spends is accounted for. Reporting for NB12, I'm Christina McNeil.
Well, in other news, Prime Minister Perry Christie had a historic meeting in Vatican City this morning, becoming the first Bahamian Prime Minister to have an audience with the Pope. Pope Francis met privately with Prime Minister Christie in the papal office.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's been a privilege.
During that 20-minute meeting, the Prime Minister and the Pontiff discussed immigration and how the Catholic Church can assist with healthcare and education in the Bahamas. The Prime Minister was later joined by his wife, Bernadette, Foreign Affairs Minister Fred Mitchell, Financial Services Minister Ryan Pinder, and Senior Government Policy Advisor Subaltern Bethel. The two leaders exchanged gifts. Christie presented Pope Francis with a book of Bahamian art and a book about the country's 40th anniversary of independence. The visit came after Christie attended the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Sri Lanka. The delegation also met with Secretary of State Archbishop Pietri Parolin. The Prime Minister promised to appoint a Bahamian to serve as non-resident ambassador to the Vatican in an effort to deepen relations on a number of issues.